I'm inspired by some of the comments here because it does show, particularly on our continent, that we need to act collectively. We need to find ways to do it. And we've got some ideas in terms of next steps which we can deal with tomorrow. But without any further ado, Styli, thanks for your patience. And off to you. Over to you. You can start your presentation.
Thanks, Michael. Just checking that all the AV stuff is good and that the presentation is showing on your side. Yep, brilliant. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Opportunity to just chat about some other legislative options beyond big tech. Obviously, the focus of this conference has been around the interactions with big tech and the media industry, but that is just one slice of the problem that we're trying to address, which is media sustainability on a bigger level. So what is sustainability? Very briefly, obviously, the one that stands out is meeting our financial obligations, but we mustn't forget that achieving our editorial vision is a big part of that we want to do the kind of journalism and support the kind of journalism that is in the public interest. The SANEF report on media sustainability proposed a definition of public interest journalism that includes being central to the democratic function and protection and promotion of the Constitution. So when we think about incentivizing and legislating for certain kind of support of a certain kind of journalism, let's bear in mind that this is the kind of journalism that we are trying to support with these measures. And then finally, we mustn't forget that we need to be able to be sustainable in order to be innovative so that we can continue innovating. For example, if we had given the newspaper industry a windfall 10 years ago, that money would have just gone to propping up the newspaper industry. We're not here to save a medium or to save a channel or to save publishers. We're here to save journalism and public interest journalism at heart. So those are the principles that we want to be thinking about when we think about media sustainability. We also need to look at it in the context of the system that we operate in. Sustainability requires different relationships with different stakeholders. It also requires us to be furthering and supporting all of these different aspects within the news media ecosystem, and how can we incentivize and support that through legislation. I'll give you a couple of examples on each of these, and I will obviously, given that the conference is dedicated to big tech, I won't cover them in this very short presentation. The first one is the public, right? So how do we incentivize the public to support media? Well, we can do that by making subscriptions and membership tax deductible in the hands of the public. We can also do this by increasing the reach and the ability of people and the public to access our websites, by making those really high data costs zero-rated, and enforcing the kind of legislation that makes us more accessible, makes public interest journalism more accessible, especially in environments with very high data rates, bandwidth rates like we do here in South Africa. Investors, we can create accelerated investment allowances. South Africa, when it was trying to stimulate the venture capital industry, created these accelerated investment allowances that drew more people into qualifying venture capital investments, and allowed them to write off that investment over a period of 3 or 5 years. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it incentivized new entrants in the tax incentive. The other thing that we need to look at is that ESG investing and social impact investing, there's no literature, there's no mention of independent media as a target for those two verticals of investment. We need to make independent media part of the ESG narrative. The Sustainable Development Goal 16 talks about peace, justice, and governance, which falls squarely into the role that media and public interest media plays. And yet there's no talk of media as a destination there. Similarly, if you look at social impact investing around the world, media is an overlooked investment destination there. Donors, it seems that making donations to public interest journalism has to be done in South Africa with setting up a public benefit organization. We should do away with that, regardless of the entity being there. Public interest journalism is already included as a named public benefit activity. So let's get away with that extra admin that's required, and let's make donations to qualifying organizations tax-free without the need to set up a charitable organization. Another one is business. How do we incentivize and make it easier and better for business to spend advertising dollars with us? The first that we can do is by making it qualifying corporate social investment and towards enterprise development points, which we can incentivize organizations to support us with that. The other one is state supported bursaries for jobs, creating opportunities for more people to enter the job market and enter newsrooms. We can also look at rebates on newsrooms, on the payroll of newsrooms. Here, I draw on the example of Netflix, who spent between 2016 and 2022, $125 million in South Africa. They got a rebate or qualified for a rebate of $43 million, right? So why does the film industry get these kinds of rebates? It's when only a few hundred people or maybe 1,000 people in the country benefit from that. Media, public interest media is a more important industry. So we can look to put rebates that incentivize the creation of jobs and the support of public interest journalism. The other thing, as an industry, we are notoriously poor at investing in training, in development, and in research and development and innovative. So this is where rebates on that kind of spend can really encourage the industry to make up those investment shortfalls. But the game changer in all of this is how we deal in our relationships with government, the role that they can play as well as part of the systemic solution. Something that they can do is to zero rate the VAT on subscriptions, memberships, and cover prices. That would help us, but also is not just a handout. It requires us to do the kind of journalism and to create the kind of products that attracts the support from the public. So it's not just a handout, it's an incentive. And the real game changer here is based on something that we've seen in the United States, where whistleblowers, there are 6 laws that compensate whistleblowers on a percentage of assets recovered or fines imposed from exposing corruption. If we had a similar law that compensated public interest journalism, investigative journalism, and whistleblowers on a percentage of assets recovered or fines imposed, that would go a long way to creating a new revenue stream that aligns both the interests of the public and our organizations in terms of serving the greater good. This chart that I've showed here is one law out of the 6. This is the SEC law that was launched 10 years ago. And you can see the 4x increase in whistleblower tip-offs and has paid out over $1 billion just from this particular law as well. So these are ways that we can encourage the system to improve itself, to encourage and incentivize support from different players and different stakeholders within the system. And all of this is conditional on being part of the Press Council, being part of the regulatory body, so that we are not benefiting rogue and disinformation players or aggregators, for example, but those who are investing truly in public interest journalism. And over time, this will make membership of the Press Council more valuable, and the Press Council itself can raise its membership rates and use that money to reinvest in resources and to offer greater regulation and greater opportunities to create jobs within the Press Council, so that we can be a better, well-regulated organization on top of that. The takeaways from this, we need a systemic solution to what is an unhelpful environment right now. We're asked to do a special job by the constitution of our country, and yet there are no special concessions or special elements of support for us to do that. Right? We need to use incentives rather than just big sticks to get support from the various different beneficiaries who benefit from the work of public interest journalism. And with a small investment by the state, all we need is willingness. And we've talked about how some countries there may not be. But what if South Africa was that country that showed the way in which we applied and created these laws and these legislative changes and used that to set the example and export that and to see and experience the huge upside that can come from small investment in public interest journalism.
We wanted to end at 5, but I think in fairness, we should have at least a couple of questions, given these quite interesting ideas which are bargaining code, but there are other measures that can be taken, and I think that's what I like about it, because it shows there very many different methods. We've got one question from Nick Farrell, one from Sekutlani, one from Phaedra. That would be 3, over and out.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is Nick on behalf of the PS.
Is it on?
Yeah, sounds like it. Those are fantastic ideas. I think that if you could put them to the Commission, to Parliament, they are really, really exciting ideas and should definitely be put forward and as part of a holistic solution that could actually form part of legislation that includes a bargaining code. I just want to close off something from this morning. This morning you said that the PSS had not invited you to participate in its project with Google and Facebook. I've got an email here from the 1st of December from Hussein on behalf of the PSS, in which he asks you to join. There were then 3 subsequent press releases which called on everyone in the media industry in South Africa to join it. And then there were further individual discussions with participants. So, just on behalf of the PSS, the email says, this is very much in the starting blocks, but we would like to invite yourselves or anyone else to join us. So I just think that's important to be said. But thank you very much for an amazing presentation, and please, those ideas do need to get put forward.
Sekutlani?
Styli, thank you so much for that great, positively framed set of solutions that we can implement almost immediately. In another capacity, I work in anti-corruption in an advisory role around the institutional arrangements that are required to bring a whole society kind of approach to the work that we have to do in South Africa. And I'm really interested in the piece around how much we incentivize, come at the state incentivize media to draw benefit from the really profound work that they do in exposing corruption and supporting the work that needs to happen to turn the corner on it in our country. Do you have like a comprehensive or a more comprehensive set of proposals around, or a more comprehensive kind of outline of that set, those sets of proposals? Would you be interested in engaging a little bit more directly with the Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, for instance? And more than that, I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about how do you, what kind of legal arrangements do you propose, if any, to be able to expand the discussion and perhaps even concretize it in some kind of legal arrangement to be able to operationalize that particular proposal? Thank you.
Phaedra?
And not a question, just more of a comment, just to say that Canada has done some of these things kind of in spirit. And so Canada, as part of its broader package of policy solutions, which, as you all know, it includes the Online News Act. But a few years ago, the government passed a digital subscription tax credit for users to sign up for Canadian news outlets. And it also created a new category for news publishers to qualify as charities. So more of a comment, but thank you so much.
Okay, Styli, you've got 3 minutes, so we can end on 5. I'm sure you could deal with it.
Yeah, just to say that there is a letter of proposal ready to go out and to submit to any of the commissions or the government stakeholders that we can submit this to. There's been a lot of thinking. We've drawn on work that's been done by SANEF locally with its media sustainability reports. We've drawn on international examples and on international research reports as well into media sustainability. So there is a lot of backup information, letters, proposal presentations that we can submit. So if anyone would like us to participate in that, absolutely. We think it is important that we push this forward as part of a greater solution. We shouldn't be looking for something that relies just on one slice of the sustainability pie. It wouldn't be good if our sustainability was 100% linked to payments from big tech, for example. We need to do our own improvements internally. We need to be better organizations. We need to be better at the digital aspects of publishing. of subscriptions, of memberships, and creating products that people want to support first and foremost, and that we're not just living on handouts. So what we've done here is select the various different elements that we think would do well in the South African context, and they don't really need a lot of debate. They've been researched both locally and internationally, and we can push them forward. On the aspect of the PSS misunderstanding / request for participation, Hussein and I have been trying to reconcile missed emails and miscommunication from earlier today. I still maintain we were not invited into the original PSS invitation. That may have been because of an email address that wasn't spelled properly, and then also just breakdown in communication afterwards with various different parties asking for more information. And I guess as a sign of the fragmented state of our industry that those things were allowed to happen.
Very much. I'm glad that we've cleared that up. Okay, I hope. But I think it's also been an incredible day, everybody. We've had a lot of information in one day. You must be exhausted. The good news is that also that the dinner, which is at 6:30, I know it's an hour and a half, but some of you all can chill out. Those who've got staying elsewhere can come back. But you're all invited to join us at like a proper nice dinner with lots of wine. We really look forward to seeing you. Day 2 starts at 9 o'clock with Agus Sudibyo from Indonesia, where we have the final Global South Regional Panel. And then we have the Global Developments Panel chaired by Anya Schifrin. I'm really looking forward to all of that. So thank you so much for your participation today. It's been amazing. And have a great evening.